are you really? Have, is it?
Yeah.
Are you a camper and wheeler? Are you an Instagram influencer that does overlanding? Are you a subject matter expert because you have 100,000 followers? And what we find is that a lot of that gets kind of blown out of the water. When you look at someone or their vehicle, don't underestimate them because there's some power there. Yeah, it was a crazy, crazy week.
Hey, this is Richard Trail Hero, and you're listening to the Trailhead Podcast.
Wave it up, let it roar, feel the ground shake. Pedal down, dust flying, no time to waste. The trail is calling, and you power on a roll. This is where trails start and stories unfold. On the starlit skies, where the wild things roam. Every trail a journey, every Jeep a home. Meet me at the trailhead, where the wild ones run. The dust kicks high and the day's not done. With the road wide open and the dirt in our soul. This is where trails start and our stories unfold.
Welcome back to the Trailhead, everybody. I am JD, and this morning, because this is Rich. Rich has gotten me up and I'm going to use the air quotes here and say crack of dawn, because I'm up at 6 a.m. anyway, my time. But you're out in New York, right?
Yeah, Long Island visiting some family after a little bit of a tour for Brandy's shindig. She's got the line dancing stuff that she does for different music festivals. So just finished
Awesome.
that tour, and now we're relaxing in upstate New York. I think it's called that. I call it that. It's Long Island, whatever it is.
There you go. That works. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're not a native to that area, I think it doesn't necessarily matter as long as you get the general geographic location right.
The locals will be pissed, but that's fine.
We have East
We're
Coast
not
listeners.
upstate New York.
Yeah, there you go. We look forward to your phone calls. Well, welcome back to the show, Rich. It's good to have you, man.
Yeah, good to be here.
I feel like we just saw each other, about a month ago now, at the time we're recording this, from Trail Hero Expeditions. And man, what a trip. Literally, figuratively, the whole 9 yards around, right?
Yeah, it was a crazy, crazy week. The original thought was 540 miles. For whatever reason, it ended up being about 570-ish miles. I'm not really sure how that came out. We had other participants say, "Oh, it was 600 miles," and I'll tell you what it was 5 days of continuous overlanding and off-roading from camp to camp, from Mesquite, Nevada at 1,600 feet in elevation, as high up as 9,700 feet in elevation, and then back down into Mesquite. And we kind of traveled through Arizona, Nevada, and Utah, and just had some pretty cool memories built, and staying at these super rad, kind of like picturesque campsites. And it was really cool to be part of something like that. And when I say part of it, I know that I essentially was the reason why it all happened, but I'm in the grand scheme of things, I was even just a small part of this really cool experience.
Okay, I appreciate the modesty, but a small part in this whole thing. Like, all right, so
when
that's
you size
awesome...
me up to the Grand Canyon, I'm a small part.
Well, yeah, 100%. I will give you that. After viewing that, like, there's a couple spots along this trip that you had planned that literally kind of just took my breath away. One of them was the Zion National Park. Somebody's like, you got to walk down there and look down into the valley and check out the sunset real fast before it gets too dark. And I walked down there. It's just like, it literally just like, I stopped myself.
Yeah. Well, I'm one of those guys that I've seen a lot of things. I've experienced a lot of things. So when somebody goes, you got to go do that, I'm like, well, I've probably already seen something like it. It's not a big deal, but you told me to do it. I'll go do it. Right.
Yeah.
And so I walked down there and I was like, holy smokes, like breath taken away. It was amazing. And same exact location that you're talking about. I was just blown away. And I picked the site. I just picked it because I thought it was cool around the campsite. I didn't even like go for the hike until somebody was like, you got to check this out. So I kind of stumbled upon that.
Yeah, somebody's. I don't know who walked down there first, and then they just started walking around, and then we were all down there, and it was just it's an amazing little view place. So I'll put a little
Yeah.
picture of it down here at the bottom for
I think
people.
it was Glenn Plake, the
Was it Glenn?
other host of the show. He was out
Okay.
hiking around. He just does that, and that's when he was like, "Dude, you got to check this out." And I'm like, "Okay, bud."
He was a trip, man. He was awesome to meet.
He's so cool.
He's so cool. It was a good deal. All right, well, real quick. So those for the uninitiated, which you shouldn't be at this point, because now that we're talking to Rich means that either this is the beginning of the series of episodes that we're talking to all the team members, or this is the end of it. You should know exactly what this event is. But as Rich kind of alluded to, it was a 500 to 600 mile trek through the desert with a bunch of strangers, with some competition elements to it, and essentially we're filming a reality show, right?
Yeah. So the idea is that it's essentially what we call like a challenge show, and we want to make sure that um, we capture the experience from camp to camp, the off-road lifestyle, the camp lifestyle. But there's also an element of challenges that makes it really fun, and we can then kind of determine a winner because it's not a race from start to finish. In fact, participants can kind of just go on their own. However they get from camp to camp is how they can do that. And it's sometimes you can go the suggested route, or other times you decide to go on your own route. And we see that in the show, and it's really cool how people kind of forge their own path and get to camp with their own unique experience separate from maybe others, and it's really fun to watch. But in camp, you've got the camp nightlife, which was popping pretty much every night, and then you've got the challenges, which are unique, and we can't dive into too much of that. But what I can say is that they're extremely fun to watch. They test the mettle of an outdoorsman or outdoorswoman. And I think that they fall in line really well with what it takes to be kind of like a camping and off-roader, or what people like to call overlanding.
I think they really touched on the idea of being prepared.
Yeah.
And the idea of knowing what your gear, what kind of gear that you've got the gear that you're supposed to have, B, that you know how
Yeah.
to use it, and C, that you could use it under stress, because that's what happens to all of us, right? Like I was alone on Drummond Island in Michigan when I dropped the front end of the Jeep into a pit of water, and I had 10 minutes essentially before my winch was going to short out from the water. If
Sure.
you didn't know where your stuff is, if you don't have your stuff ready to go, it can cause a real problem out there in the trails. So
Yeah.
I liked it. It was really impressive to kind of see, and again, we won't go into too much detail, but it was just impressive to kind of see folks mold into it real fast. Like everybody was real ready to go. So as soon as those first kind of challenges hit, people were kind of doing them and anticipating them a little bit. Like I've talked to a bunch of folks who now that I have interviewed, and they're like, I kind of felt like this first one was coming up, and then I kind of knew that we might be doing something like the second or third one, and it was, you kind of start talking with everybody, and they're all just like, yeah, we kind of knew, and I think that's because they all had some level of overlanding knowledge, or some level like this is something that might happen to me, and this is something that Rich might throw at me.
Well, and exactly, when you enter a challenge reality show and it's all based on what you do for fun, you can kind of put together like, oh, this might be something we would touch on because it's something that happens to it it's an opportunity that could happen negatively to an
Right.
everyday off-roading situation. So, is it something like, well, your lug studs fell off, now you got to find lug studs. It's not quite like that drilled down, but
Right.
you do need to know where your tools are. You do need to know where your spare parts are. You need to be able to access them quickly, and you
Yeah.
need to do so efficiently. That's part of what we do anyway. That's part of the lifestyle.
Right.
And so it was interesting when you get all these people that are overlanders, and that's, I think, a really broad term these days. Are you really? Are you a camper and wheeler? Are you an Instagram influencer that does overlanding? Are you a subject matter expert because you have 100,000 followers? And what we find is that a lot of that gets kind of blown out of the water. The guys that everyone does well in one form or another, but the guys that don't post often are typically the ones that do well. And so,
Yeah.
they're not the they might be looked at as the underdog to the influencer, but to everyone else, they're the threat. And so it's really cool seeing that evolve throughout the show, and goes to show that, like, it's not about what you say, it's about how you show what you know. And that's really what the challenges boil down to, is it gives those guys or those people an opportunity to showcase that, hey, just because they don't post about it doesn't mean they don't know about it.
Yeah. It was, and yeah, again, it was impressive. It was impressive to see people that you wouldn't expect pop up and just be like, "I'm done. We
Yeah.
finished." You're just like,
Yeah.
"Wait, what? How is that possible?" Like, I never would have expected it. So
Yeah.
it was really cool, and it was cool to watch folks as they kind of went through the week and got more confident with themselves in both the day to day and then the actual like competition pieces. It was really neat. It was really awesome.
Yeah, and we had a pretty wide array of experiences. Some were brand new into overlanding, kind of a fish out of water situation. Others were very experienced into off-roading and camping and been doing this for 40 years or whatever. And
Yeah.
and their vehicle and their preparedness showed that. But ultimately, how that all transpires and plays out is going to be part of the show. It's just one of those things, like, just when you look at someone or their vehicle, don't underestimate them, because
Yeah.
there's some power there that that people don't know and don't realize, and it's really cool when that comes out and is on full display.
Yeah, you don't always need 40s and a 6-inch lift to do the trails. Sometimes you just need 35s and a good line.
And it helps. It helps a lot.
Yeah.
But and it makes it. I think you could look at the situation and go, well, it makes it more fun that I have all this great equipment, and it allows me to get through it easier or whatever. The adverse look at that is, I have more fun with the smaller tire and smaller lift because I have to work for it, and it's a
Yep.
bigger challenge. And so, I mean, two different ways to have fun for sure, but
Yeah.
I definitely feel like either one works, right?
Yeah, and I'll be the controversial one. I would argue that the having the smaller tire and having to overcome those obstacles with the smaller equipment makes you a better driver. And so even when you get
Yeah.
to those 40s, then you're taking those better lines and you're doing better because you started off smaller.
And not only that, the smaller tire and the more original manufacturer equipment in the overland community is sought after because it's considered kind of like more durable, right? And
Yeah.
it allows you to, it's highly tested. It just works in a way better in its own way, right? You can
Yep.
go on the freeway and you can still go off road. As soon as you start putting on the bigger tires, it strains more components, and you end up having possibly more issues. So, changing gear sets and all this stuff, now you're putting it on in the hands of a shop versus
Yeah.
tested engineers, installation. So there's definitely some highs and lows to being more stock versus being over or larger built. And in this situation, I mean, we had some pretty tough terrain to navigate over, but a more stock vehicle, the more stock vehicles were still able to accomplish it with the use of a winch or great driving skill, and it was really cool to watch that all transpire.
That's awesome. Yeah, and someday I will ask you about your opinion on portals. Not today, but I'm very curious about how you feel about portals. That actually leads me back to a question about the selection process, because there was a relatively large number of people that applied to be on the show.
Yeah.
Is there anything kind of insight that you can provide into how you kind of picked the 12 teams that you ended up with?
Yeah, so we had over 300 people apply for the show, and we had narrowed that down to about 40 that we felt were going to be good for the show. It's
Mhm.
not necessarily the best overlander in the world. It's
Right.
more what would be good for the show, because ultimately we're still building something for entertainment
It's a
value.
cast selection process.
It is
Yeah.
a cast selection process, and so it has less to do with how many camel trophies you've won and more to do with, just because that's a thing.
Yeah.
It has more to do with just your personality and a little bit with experience. I mean, we had some literal first time overlanders out there, and we had some very experienced people. So when we narrow it down, we literally have a crew. It's called a casting crew, and they go through every facet. They do background checks, they everything, all the way down, and it kind of narrows the field down to we originally narrowed it down to 40, and we were playing around with that for a little bit, and then we realized that that's probably a big field of people to have on the show, so we dropped it to 24, and then 2 weeks before the event, we found out that we needed to be at 12, and it's just a production call. And so it was reaching out to 12 individuals that had planned for this now for several months to let them know that, hey, it's got to be 12, and unfortunately, you're not one of them. Ultimately, 12 was the right call. I think that even that might have felt a little bit big initially, especially as a first year doing something like this, but we've already been funded for season 2. We're looking at 10 to 12 rigs moving on to, or not moving on, but being part of season 2. I could tell you that if you're part of season 1, you are not going to be cast for season 2. That's just not the way it works. So we would love to have fresh blood, new people out there. If you've applied in the past, you still have an opportunity to apply again and be taken into season 2. So I always suggest, if you get a chance to apply, to go ahead and do that. And you can do that at trailherox.com.
Well, since we're here and in that part of that conversation, you got any advice for anybody who has seen season 1 and wants to apply for season 2? Other than, I will tell you right now that Rich is going to come up with new, interesting things to challenge you. Let's put it that way. That's the nice way to put it.
So we have, new challenges already mapped out. We have a new route with new camp locations. It's going to be an awesome season 2. Permits are already being placed, and with this being shot in June, we've still got till May to get all this done, but we're actively working on it. We definitely don't slack off. We've got a lot to work on. And when you do a trip that's, 500 to 600 miles off road, we definitely want to make sure that everything's nice and tight. And we were really fortunate that this year, as a first year TV show and, kind of endeavor, it went pretty flawless. There were some behind the scenes stuff that kind of happened, but overall, and that was just vehicles not being prepared on our end, whether it was chase or it was camera crews or whatever, but we all made it work. And it was awesome to watch the participants. They were amazing. But really, season 2 is going to be, it's not going to be like this. We're not going to amplify and like bigger, tougher, stronger, crazier. It's already that. So we're just gonna keep that going. And you'll see, if you haven't seen the episodes already, I think that they're going to be something that you want to watch, and you'll see in those episodes that how to overland essentially.
Yeah.
And if it excites you and ignites a fire to do something like this, and we'd love to have you out. We'd love to make sure that you get the opportunity to be out there with us, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
And I will tell you, as dear listeners, I will tell you as a observer from the outside, essentially kind of media in between production and the cast and stuff. It was everybody had a good time. All of the participants that I've talked to so far, and I know that the other ones will say the same thing, is they all had the best time, despite whatever, challenges that we had in terms of timing and things like that. Everybody just had a great time. They learned stuff about themselves. They learned stuff about other people. They've made friends that they haven't stopped texting with since we left, Nevada. And it was just impressive all the way around. And I got more and more impressed with the idea of the show as the week went on, because I just got to the place halfway through the week, and I'm just like, this is going to be great. This is going to be so much fun when we finally put it all together.
I think that, inherent with off-roaders, we just want to go do whatever we're doing. And so there is the element of, hey, we're on TV. And because of that, there's a little bit of production, hurry up and wait type stuff that, most people don't realize is a thing until you get in the middle of it. However, there wasn't a lot of it, and
No.
what was there was, pretty chill. I filmed a lot of TV shows, whether it's Alaska Off-Road Warriors, it's Truck Night in America. It it doesn't matter. It is production heavy, very difficult to move through the day, and we're light and nimble, and that
And-
holds its own issues. But I kind of take on when it comes to production type stuff, lean and mean, and so
Yeah.
we trim all the fat of all the PAs and all the people, and we get down to the core group that ends up, each person in the production does probably 20 jobs each, but
They work
overall
their butts off. Yeah.
they work their tails off. But overall, it's a better experience for everyone, because the adverse side of that is we could be fat, we could have all these people, we could try to transport each of these people from camp to camp as well. And over 500-600 miles, that becomes very difficult. And so it was just one of those, like, we made the call kind of early in the process that we cannot be your typical TV show of just all this weight.
Right.
We had to lighten it up, and just like you would when you're overlanding or off-roading, you don't want your vehicle to be overly heavy and difficult and cumbersome.
Well, and you had to have that way, right? Like,
Yeah.
the way this was set up was, I know I probably watched too much reality TV in my lifetime, but I happen to know that there are, like, when you hear somebody on a show, like, let's say The Bachelor or something like that, and they say, "Oh, it's been an amazing week. It's been 3 days.
Yeah.
It's been 4 days." And because they can't do a week's worth of video and then try to trim that down into anything. But
Right.
so the timeline you see on TV is actually, and that they tell you that you see on TV, is different. And so when you came on this show and it's like, yeah, I want to do this, and we're going to film this in the desert, and we're going to do it in 6 days. And I'm just like, when you first said it, I'm like, oh, it sounds cool. And then I started to think about it more as I'm watching, all the trash TV over the course of the winter. And I'm like, this dude's crazy. Like,
Yeah.
how are we going to do that in 6 days?
Survivor does it in 30 days, and
Valid.
they have 3 episodes in 30 days, and we have 6 episodes in 6 days. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it was peeling out the whole time.
Yeah.
Full throttle, nonstop for production. And I think you'll see how cool that is in the show itself. But for the participants, it was a solid 6 days. And, the sites we saw, the miles we logged, the hangout at camp with friends, we're probably going to focus a little bit more on the camp life a little bit, which is, hanging out at the campfire, doing some cooking and enjoying just these new friendships that you kind of develop along the way.
Yeah.
And so the route is, I can't go into next year's route as far as where we're going yet. But it's about 90% done already. We've got
Okay.
it pretty nailed. We got a good idea of what we're going to do. And, we start pre-running, probably after Trail Hero in October.
Okay. That brings me to a great question, because it's come up a couple times, because I think you said it during the banquet dinner. And if you don't want to admit to this timeline, you don't have to admit to this timeline. But my understanding, and again, like I said, you're not to commit. I'll even cut this from the show. But my understanding is that now you had the route, because we talked about you had this route in your books for a while, like you'd done it a few times over the course of the last couple of years. But what was the time frame from when you officially kind of put the flag down and said, I want to do this. We're going to do this now.
That's a great question. So I've wanted to build this route and go experience this route just from my own accord since I moved to Southern Utah in 2014. I should say moved back to Southern Utah in 2014. I went to high school in the area, and I had a car, and I had gone to a couple of these locations, just, the easiest way possible. Definitely not overlanding to these spots.
You're not driving a passenger car down a canyon, were you?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely not a passenger car down any of this stuff. But, as we as I moved back and kind of got back into the off-road community, I had the wish to go do this route again, or do this route for the first time, I should say. And at the same time, I got kind of caught up in all things Trail Hero, and which is, saving the mountain, developing the event, building community outreach programs, all that stuff. And it wasn't until, my wife was like, hey, we're looking at possibly doing a couple other events, during the time of year that we don't have a lot going on. What do you think? And so I said, yeah, put it out to a couple different companies and see if we can get some funding for it. And if it does, then I'll activate I'll call in all my favors and get something moving. And that's kind of how it works, right? And so we reached out to a couple different companies for a couple different events, and it just so happened that all the companies bought into every event that was put in, all at the same time. And so instead of having one commitment in spring, we ended up having many commitments in spring. And so not only was it like, okay, we just got our funding, it's 60 days before we're doing this. Now, mind you, the commitment was 60 days. We had verbally agreed to things 6 months in advance. So I had started kind of developing things with the idea of like, if it pops off and it gets funded, then it's going to be much bigger. It's going to be this crazy thing. And if not, we're just going to do it even tighter than the way we did it.
Right.
So it was kind of just this, we're going to do it anyway, because I wanted to. And that really started in October, 2 weeks or a week after Trail Hero. I said, I really want to get into this. I want to go, finally experience this route that I've been looking at for 10 years.
Yeah.
I might as well go do it. And so I went and ran it, and I brought some friends with me, and everyone was like, holy smokes, dude, this was so much fun.
Yeah.
And we thought, okay, we might have something here. And then when we got it sold, it was like, well, we better have something here because we've got the route, everything's planned. Now we just have to make it happen. Yeah. And so we didn't get the funding for the TV show until 60 days prior to the trip, which also means that we started the casting process before that, before we even got funding. And the purpose of that was, we're going to go do the trip anyway. We might as well go have fun with it. And if we film the whole thing, it'll just be on a smaller scale. So once we got the funding, it was like, okay, now we can bring on more videographers. We have more edit time, which a lot of people don't realize. That's half the workload is filming the thing, and the other half is actually editing and designing and building the show. Mm-hmm. And so, we didn't really ramp up until 60 days ahead, and that's honestly pretty typical for the TV industry. Everyone would go, wow, things are changing last minute. Man, there were some things that changed last minute in every single TV show that I've ever hosted or been a part of. And it's just part of the industry, and you just kind of understand that. And if you hadn't been in TV before or on a TV show, once you are on one, you understand it very, very well. But it's just part of the industry.
So I have to share this with you, because I did mention it to somebody, and I was like, because I got back and we're watching a show, and it was a similar kind of a show in the terms of they had a challenge situation, and it was just kind of and then they film what goes on in between and give you an idea of what the dynamics are for people. And I'm watching this show, and I'm watching them go into this challenge. I think it was. Yeah, I'm not going to mention the name of the show, but it was on NBC or something like that. And it was something where they're doing like these little challenge pieces in between, like this larger kind of a mind game. And I'm just like, this all now feels very familiar. Now I understand. I understand kind of what's going on behind the scenes to get to that place. And I understand why they're doing it, because It helps move the story along as well, because you are
Yeah.
still telling a story. Because in this day and age, like any kind of a TV show, any kind of a YouTube series, any kind of a podcast has to tell a story, right? Like in
Yeah.
order for people to be engaged, and that's part of what the competition piece was about too. I know. So nice.
Yeah, it's the story is always unique because you go into it thinking one thing, like this is our story, this is what we're gonna do. And
Yeah.
then as the show develops, you realize like either, yes, this is all in support of that, or, and it's actually or, um,
Yeah.
no, there's this other really cool story and this other cool story. And so typical with any TV show, there's so much that happens that it doesn't always get in. And you know, we originally talked about this show being a 30-minute episode. It looks like it's trending more towards an hour-long episode. And that's because we just have so much story to tell. There's just so much great content and great experiences to capture. And we just wanted to make sure that we really get the true, authentic version of what we do. And um, this whole off-road lifestyle is always about the only constant is change, right?
Right.
And you can go into it with all of your day planned to the minute and and have everything figured out. And as soon as your tires hit the dirt, everything changes. And
Yep.
this show's no different. So it's we kind of planned for a lot of changes, and we just like you would in an overland trip, you just kind of ebb and flow like a river and make the best of the situation, and
Yeah.
and
Well, things
at the end
happen,
of the day,
right?
it's a better experience.
Yeah. Well, things happen, right? Like, some people get to camp late, or you decide halfway through that you're like the challenge that you, Rich, had been giggling about for quite some time wasn't going to quite work the way that you wanted it to work, and
Yeah,
you kind of got to change those things on the fly, and that's understandable. And I think, especially again, 6 days,
yeah,
like it's such a truncated timeline for a lot of things.
yeah. And it's when you do these other challenge shows, they're all filmed on one location. I don't
Mhm.
care. Like Alaska Off-Road Warriors was supposed to be a point to point, one point to Alaska to another point in Alaska, a good 500 miles. It was supposed to be essentially what this was. And it all got filmed in a 1 square mile off-road park in Knik, Alaska, just outside
Oof.
of Anchorage. So,
Yeah.
and they still made the show feel like you traveled all the way across the state. This is traveling. We traveled, and there was no home
Like,
base. There was no. I mean, you're not stuck, but you are stuck to this idea that you've got to have everything you need. And that's kind of like this overland lifestyle. But we had to take that into the production as well, as like every single tool we need has to be there, and any tool that we might need also has to be there, which means
right.
we're pretty heavy. But ultimately, like we all have to be MacGyver. When things go wrong, you may not have every tool or every part, and you got to figure it out. And especially when you're 100 miles off road and there's nobody in sight, or not a car quest around the corner, you got to figure that out. And we did, and it was super
Yeah.
awesome.
There's a lot of MacGyvering from production. There was a lot of MacGyvering from myself. There was a lot of MacGyvering
From
but
participants.
mostly participants.
Yeah.
And what was really impressive to see was a lot of MacGyvering between participants, right? Like
Yeah.
there's a lot of people who were just willing to just help, whether it was day to day,
Yeah.
setting up camp, or in the challenges themselves.
And that was really unique to see. Was like, here you have people who are really kind of built against each other, right? They are competitors,
Right.
they're adversaries, but they were out there helping each other as well. And it kind of shows the tender side of humanity, where you know you could be right in the middle of the heat of battle, and your opponent is struggling, and you want to beat them, but you don't want to beat them like that. So you
Right.
help them just a little bit, and that was really cool to see as well. Is that, like, yes, there was this immense amount of competition. It was fierce,
Right.
but it also was friendly, and
Yeah.
people still cared about each other, and that's huge. I think that says a lot.
Yeah. And there's one moment that I hope made the show, and I'm almost positive that it will. But that one particular participant was struggling, and they had been another team. They had loaned another team something else, and
Yeah.
then they ended up just working together to get both sets of challenges done. It was really impressive to see. It was nice to hear the teamwork. It was like nobody was there to just beat the pants off each other, and it
Yeah.
was all there to have a good time and to make sure that everybody, because I think that's the thing, right? Like the overall message is that you want to go out on these adventures, but you also need to have the skills and the people that can help you get back.
Yeah. And that instance had a huge impact on the show. Like, to
Mm.
now that you look back on it, like, that was wild when that happened. I mean, people were floored. What? That's happening? And
Mm-hmm.
it was like, holy smokes! Like, this is a whole new level now. Kind of like something unlocked, right? And so, what that did for the show was it really kind of paved the way for some interesting storylines and how that all panned out. And I think
Yeah.
that viewers are going to be able to see that and go, holy smokes! That, in episode whatever, we didn't know what was going on, and then we see it really play out later, and
Yeah.
it was really cool to see.
Do you, and this is just this question just occurred to me because I've heard this from every participant that I've talked with, and essentially that overlook that we were at was not a turning point for people, but I think an inflection point of some kind where all of this became very real.
It kind of makes you feel just in a very unique situation, right? To be near something so enormous and so grand, and it makes you feel small.
I've been writing for Trails Off Road for nearly 10 years now, and what drew me in wasn't just the chance to map trails, it was their absolute commitment to building detailed, consistent, and responsible guides that truly help people explore with confidence. That mission still matters, and that's why I believe in Trails Off Road, not just because I'm a writer and they're a sponsor, but because I've seen firsthand how useful this tool can be when you're deep in the backcountry and plans are changing by the hour. Planning a full week of the trailhead following along with Trail Hero expeditions meant juggling long days, minimal cell phone service, and evolving plans. Trails Off Road kept the plan simple for me, though. Clear difficulty ratings and waypoints for obstacles and even some camping information made the journey that much easier. Public land overlays made it easy to stay legal and tread lightly when roving camp to camp, and it all worked offline, so the guide and the map kept working even when the cell bars faded. New features even allow you to record your tracks, add your own waypoints, and put the guide on a compatible Android Auto Dash. If you want one tool to plan your adventure smarter, this is it. So for the best damn trail guides, get your free trial of Trails Off Road All Access in the app or at trailsoffroad.com.
Yeah.
Everything that we were doing became very real. Production as a whole kind of had fallen into a rhythm, so we all kind of had a feeling of how things were going to go day to day.
Yep.
And then in general, I think people were just kind of in that place that we were talking about at Zion, right? Where you step out into the stuff and you're just like, good Lord, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, when you're staying in places like Zion National Park or the Grand Canyon, it kind of makes you feel just in a very unique situation, right? To be near something so enormous and so grand, and it makes you feel small. And
Yeah.
At the same time, you're in the middle of accomplishing so much, and so you feel great. You feel like you can topple the world. You're doing so well, and then here you are, humbled by nature and its beauty. And it's definitely one of those camps that really kind of put into perspective, like, you're right, we were all in a rhythm, everything was going well, we're just chomping away, boom 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 boom, everything's working well, and boom, stop, take this in, this is crazy, right?
Yeah.
And you get that several different times throughout the season, and it's really cool to see that perspective, to hear everyone go, man, I've wanted to do this my entire life. I've wanted to be here my entire life, and this was the first opportunity I got to do it. And so it's really cool to feel that and to experience that with people. And that another check mark on the bucket list. People spent their whole lives hoping to experience this, and they finally get the opportunity to do so.
Yeah.
And how that affects people emotionally and everything. And it's not just you as a driver. You have a co-pilot with you, and so you get to share that experience, whether that's your wife or your friend or some random dude you found on the internet or whatever, which happened.
It did.
I think that was it's just something that's like, wow, I get a chance to share this with somebody. And then adversely, you have a couple people who did this on their own, which is wild to begin with.
Yeah.
And they get to reflect in solitude, and how each one does that. It's just a really cool experience.
Yeah. And this is just for you, because I know you're not going to have time to listen to all these episodes, because I've got 12 episodes of all your participants talking about this event.
I love it.
But Jeff and Brian, Team Genrite,
Yeah.
Jeff he's back from my stomping grounds, right? He's back from Chicago and Indiana and Chicago. I didn't say it like that, did I?
Not really.
Yeah, okay. I'm losing it. I spent too much time out west. But he was just in awe about it, right? He was just he had never really experienced anything like that at all in his life. I don't know necessarily in his life, but at least recently. And I don't necessarily know that he knew what he was in for, because Brian's just going, hey, you want to go out into the desert with me? So, and much like me, he just said, yeah, sure,
Well,
let's do it.
I'm here in New York right now, and I grew up in Northern California, and you're just surrounded by trees, and so you can't see the forest beyond the trees, right? And when you get
The
to
actual thing, yeah.
when you get to the desert and you get on top of these cliffs and mountain peaks, you can see everything, and
Yep.
the expanse is very humbling. And that's one thing we really drill into this season is, it's this experience. I can't tell you if it's going to be a good experience or a bad one, but it's going to be one that you will never forget, and you'll be able to cherish with you and take with you your entire life. And from this week of insanity, you'll have a year or two worth of stories that and really a lifetime to be able to tell those. It's I often look at, like, when you get regular people, everyday people, they may have a close call once in their life, and it's, oh my God, and that's the story that they can tell at a party. And after 4 or 5 parties, they've told the same story, it kind of diminishes and it loses its value and whatever. But you still have that one story. Well,
Right.
on a week like this, you'll develop thousands of those stories. Not close calls like you almost lost your life or anything, may happen. But ultimately it's just these amazing adventures that you go on, and now you have years and a lifetime to be able to tell these stories, and they're all unique, they're all different, and every time you go to a party, something reminds you of something that happened because of this trip that you took off a whim and said, hey, I'm gonna go ahead and apply for that TV show and see what happens. And now your campfire stories, man, you could take that forever with you. And it's not about inherent with any TV show. There's always a level of people getting to know you and to know your story and to get connected with you. And I wouldn't call that fame, because we're off-roaders. There's not a lot of fame in this, but
no,
what it is
notoriety.
Some notoriety. It's some something to be proud of. And ultimately, it's you're developing your character, your personality, your story that you could take with you forever. And this is a great opportunity to do that.
And everybody I've talked with has said the same thing, and they've all kind of had the same kind of feeling about that in general. It's just that I think a lot of them. I mean, one of the episodes I recorded, well, I'll go ahead and drop their name, with Nathan and Susan. It's officially the longest episode we've ever recorded. It was 3.5 hours.
Holy smokes!
Oh God,
that's awesome.
But they had all the stories, right? And we were going along, and I'm just like, I can't stop this story. This is amazing. I'm gonna have to break it up into something. But they had all the stories. SRG went for a couple hours, and like they had all these great stories about stuff that I don't even know if it'll ever make like air because they didn't have video of it and stuff like that. So
Sure. Yeah.
it's
Unfortunately, you have to narrow it down to 45 minutes, and
that's
with
why I'm here, Rich.
yeah, it's to tell all the behind the scenes stuff that
Yeah,
may not hit the show, and I think this is a great way to do that.
and that's I told that to the cast, and I'm just like I want to have you guys on because I know that in a show like this, there's only going to be so much time to highlight each one of you, and I know you have more stories to tell. So it's really great because you're right, you get a lifetime of stories or a lifetime of ribbing.
Yeah.
Some people get some people are the only person to get framed deep in the sand and Sand Hollow before we left camp.
Sure.
Some of us are the only people who have been mapping for Trails Off Road for 10 years to get lost on their way to camp. So why you got to point fingers? I'm just saying in generals. I'm just generalizing.
Yeah.
That was actually it was a really fun day. Shout out to Adam from Ride Dog for putting up with it. I think he had a good time too, because now I think he's addicted to off-roading. Yeah.
Well, and that's part of like the production story, that it will never hit the show for obvious reasons. We didn't even have cameramen with you.
Yeah.
But you guys had your own adventure out there just trying to get to Camp 3.
Just trying to get to Camp 3, man. Were we the last ones in? And I only asked because I feel like you were like the gatekeeper at that point.
I believe there was a couple behind you.
Okay.
If I remember.
Okay. I know there was like crew behind me because that chase crew had run up with for an ATV, but okay.
Yeah. Okay, no, so you were close to the last ones in.
Okay. Because I know I came in the dark.
There was a couple that came in the dark that night. I would ask you a bunch of questions, but that may reveal secrets of the show. So I'll just wait.
You can ask me, and I can always mark this out and cut it out later.
We'll get to it later. Yeah,
we'll do one closer to the after air.
There you go.
Okay. What I will say about that particular campsite is that, man, it's the same one they were talking about where people kind of had an inflection point, right?
Yeah.
And I got there after dark. I knew where I was, but I couldn't really see where I was because it was after dark. Like, despite the surface of the sun lights that I had from Tyree on my Jeep, I didn't really know for sure. I get to camp, and I just want to share this story with you in case you don't remember. But Rich, I roll up to Rich, who's at the flags, and I'm just like, where you want me at? And he's just like, you can park wherever you want. He's like, over there's for the really more adventurous people, and over there's for the little bit safer, and way over there is the safest. I was like, okay. So I tried to roll over by team number 2, and I couldn't get the trailer I had flat, which was very disappointing because I would have parked there. But I ended up parking with my trailer that I had essentially to the view that we were going to wake up to.
Yeah, you were parked right next to us.
Yes, and waking up to that view was just ridiculous. Like you opened the door and I was absolutely blown away. Like I sat there for a half an hour just taking it in before I got started.
Yeah,
it was awesome. So thank you for that.
Yeah, that location, that was one of those that, like, I mean, just when you wake up, we did the same thing. We parked so that when we woke up, we had the view, right? And which meant we were right on the cliff edge. And, as we woke up, naturally, when it's overlanding or tent camping or whatever you're doing, you kind of wake up a lot earlier. And so just by nature, nobody's setting an alarm or anything. And, sun's rising and you get to see that and experience it. And then as it is cast along the canyon, it really just puts into perspective how unique and cool this opportunity is and how small you are. And it's something I'm really, really thrilled that I got to share with my wife, and
that's awesome.
She was on that portion of the show with me, and it was awesome.
On a personal level, how much time did you actually get to spend on the course? I know you had to leave some because you had other things that you were doing. Did you get to do any of the kind of camp to camp stuff other than that one that we all had to go out to?
So I had pre-run 3,000 miles. So I
was okay with it. Yeah.
It was 540 miles, 570 miles, something like that. And I had pre-run it essentially like 6 times. And so I had a lot under my belt for that. And really, when it comes to production, like as the host of the show, I have to be there before everyone else gets there.
Okay.
With TV
Yeah.
show, with the TV production and all that. So we can kind of get some things set up, and so it doesn't allow me a lot of time to be on the suggested route. But at the same time, we're still experiencing, getting to camp in our own way.
Yeah.
And that Camp 3 was kind of this unique location where there were no amenities remotely close. You were so far off the grid that you kind of have to do your own wheeling or overlanding just to get to camp, and there's no way around it.
Right.
And so that's one where every single person was mandated. They had to be on our off-road to get to. Whereas some of the other camps, production could kind of skirt and take shortcuts and get from camp to camp a little quicker than others by using pavement or whatever.
Right.
And not that any participants did, but it was really cool to get into camp and watch the ride dog tracker, as people would move across the desert and roll into camp. There was it, but that one camp was definitely a very remote location. And other than that, I pretty much stuck to the roads. I had to because I'm the host, I've got to shower, I've got to shave, I've got to look
You're the
a
host,
certain
you're
way.
producing, you're partially directing. Like, you're doing all the things, man.
And I didn't have a lot of time in between. So we would, once camp life started to die down a little bit, we'd bail and run home real quick, get cleaned up, and then meet everyone first thing in the morning and get started again for the day.
Nice. All right. And we've talked a little bit about the behind the scenes stuff. Was there anything that you is there any story that's never going to make the air that you would love to have told someplace? Like, is there, I know, and let me be clear, we did not leave any trailers or any equipment in the desert. It was all retrieved.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of things that happened behind the scenes. And like you said, not all of it was caught on camera. I now wish that I wish I'd filmed Adam and I trying to figure out where the hell we were. I think that would have been gold as like for, a post-credit scene of some kind, just two jackasses in the desert trying to figure out where they're at.
I mean, it could be anything from, production broke a trailer in half, setting up camp and having one of we originally had planned for certain things to be in camp, and one of our camp rigs, what we call camp rigs, which is for camp setup, one of those broke down, and we're loaded to the max. And so half the stuff we planned to be in camp didn't make it to camp. And you'd never really know on the show, but you will see the evolution of what I call the evolution of the Trail Hero camp sign. And it gets bigger and bigger and bigger throughout each episode. And now you know why. Because one of our camp setup rigs basically fell apart and couldn't get everything to camp. So we just pivoted and did what we could. And then we just moved from there. So but there's going to be thousands of stories that I wish could be told, and it's hard to do that in 45 minutes to an hour. So
fair enough.
It's the story isn't about me. It's always about the great experience that our participants had, and we're really excited to see where that goes. But as far as mine, one thing I really enjoyed was on the way to Camp 3. There's this schoolhouse that's from the 1800s that we go look at, and we got a chance to go inside it, and I don't know if it'll make the show or not, but Glenn and I walked through and checked out all the old artifacts and photos and history of the schoolhouse, and it's just really.
Were you
really
there with
cool.
Keenan?
No, I wasn't.
Okay, and I'm not sure. Keenan, I believe, had stopped at this, either that schoolhouse or some other location along the trail, and he had all the details, and the camera crew was just excited to walk through with him and go through all that.
Yeah, he did the ghost town.
Oh, that's right. He had the
So we
ghost town.
traveled through a ghost town, and Keenan did this really cool kind of tour of the ghost town, and that's something that was definitely on our schedule to make sure we got. Didn't get a chance to go into the ghost town and deal with any of that, but Keenan definitely did a great job with that. And
Did you know he had that background to talk about that stuff?
yeah, so Keenan
Okay.
actually, unbeknownst to our staffing coordinators, had been a trail hero guide for us. So he's kind of familiar with the southern Utah area, someone who really takes a lot of pride in understanding and being a true overlander. And like he calls it, overlanding with intention, and I think he does that really well. And so he knew a couple of the historical places that we had driven through. And I think that he definitely took a good opportunity to talk about that ghost town. Was pretty cool.
Nice. I'm looking forward to that one because I've heard a lot about it from the
Yeah.
people who were with him. And I know production's like, wait, we can go in there with you? And yeah, it was fun.
Yeah. It
It's
was
good
awesome.
stuff.
Yeah.
We are getting to the end of the time we should spend on this today. And I am going to have you back because there are 1,000 stories that we'll have to talk
Yeah.
about this stuff.
Yeah.
And I have talked with all of the cast that I've spoken with so far. I believe most of them are going to try to be at Trail Hero. So we might try to do a reunion show on site.
Yeah, I
someplace.
think that we've got like a big area set up at Trail Hero for everyone that's part of the cast, kind of a meet and greet.
Yep.
And an opportunity for people to get to know the cast and their vehicles and what worked and what didn't. And I believe by Trail Hero there should be at least 1 or 2 episodes out. We're shooting
Okay.
for I would like all of the episodes out by Trail Hero, but I think we're shooting for the first episode to be out around Trail Hero. So
Okay. That's still the good launch time.
it's a
Yeah,
great
that's
launch
still a
time,
good
right?
launch time because you get all that energy running into it. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. And so it's a great opportunity for us and for the industry. And again, if somebody, if these stories and the stories from the cast and the show itself inspires you to um, to try this and put your hand in the pot, we suggest you do so. I think
Yeah.
there's an amazing opportunity for everyone to have their own unique adventure. Season 2 will definitely provide that. Like I said, I've got the route figured out. It's about 90% done, and we get to start pre-running in October after the Trail Hero event, and we're just really excited to develop season 2. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
I'm just excited to have this much time to plan for it. So,
Yeah, right.
because it was a
Yeah,
short runway,
me too.
Rich, is what I'm saying. It was a short
It
runway.
was
Yeah,
for everyone. I mean,
but
I had I think a funny story. We had the production guys, we had chase teams, we had camp setup guys, but everyone knowing something was going to happen. But again, they didn't get the call until essentially 60 days ahead of time because
Right.
we just didn't want to put too much into it. If we didn't have the funding, it would be really hard to follow up with the grand plan that we wanted.
Mhm.
So everything got kind of put on hold, and then once we got the green light, man, I was like, open the floodgates, here we go. And then it was
No,
a ton of work. Yeah.
it was off to the races and making plans, and yeah, it was fun. It was fun though. I will tell you that. On a personal level, and I'm sure my listeners don't really care, but I'm just going to say it anyway. I really appreciate this. Like, it was a really cool, even as kind of that media following you guys along and just kind of trying to see what was going on. The whole thing was amazing. From the TV production, kind of that's cool. That's just cool to see because I've never seen that before. And now I feel like I understand that better and can deal with it better next time around. But the rest of it, just the trip itself, like, yeah, I had to take some of the bypasses because I had that stupid trailer that I won't be doing again. It's the adventure itself, the camps itself. I had the best time at the Sand Hollow camp. I had the best time at the camp. Like, it was just such a good time. running around filming people and just talking with folks, having a great time, sharing dinners and stuff like that. It was just, as a production person, as a media person, I would do it again just to be on the outskirts watching everybody have a good time and to kind of to dip and dive into that a little bit. So thank you very much for thank you very much for inviting me and inviting the shows. Well, and I guess looking back on all of this, then, do you feel like you pulled off a miracle or barely survived the whole thing?
I think that, considering the circumstances, the only constant is change. And I would say that we executed to the best of our ability and in sorts pulled off a miracle. You know, only a couple people with this whole process had real television experience. I'd say maybe half the production crew. And
Yeah.
so everyone else was just off-roaders trying to make the best of it. And we did. I thought we did, I wouldn't say executed flawlessly, but we definitely got a lot done in a small period of time and achieved all of our goals. And that's kind of the point. So very happy
Nice.
with it.
Okay. Well, and I know without going into detail, I said somebody said something to somebody at one point along the lines of, what am I doing here? Essentially, I have no business. Like I'm not, who am I?
Yeah.
And I think we all kind of had that realization as the week went on. We're just like, yeah, that's why Rich brought everybody in, because we are all folks who are dedicated to doing what we're doing like he is.
Yeah. And the only way to make it a great experience is to have some level of adversity. And, you kind of have that fish out of water outlook. And
Yeah.
that's not a bad thing. That's your opportunity to test your mettle and find out what you're made of. And I think that's what the show does for everyone. So I think it's something that was well needed for a lot of people.
All right, this is my final question for you then,
Yeah.
because I know that you have, I know your chase teams are full for next year, partially because all of the people I've spoken with who can't participate in next year want to be a chase team.
Yeah.
But are you going to have any other kind of roles that you're going to be looking out to people, or do you feel like you got enough staff for next year now?
We have kind of the way it works is we have production, then we have camp setup and tear down. We have challenge, kind of like producers,
Right.
which help with the challenge. And then we have the chase team and recovery. And so chase and recovery are full at this point. We always need some help in other ways. So challenge production and then camp setup and tear down is always well needed.
Mhm.
With those two, you don't get off road as much as you would like because you kind of have to go from camp to camp, but you still get a lot of the experience. And if it's something that you want to get involved with and just get your toes wet, you're still camping on site. You're still getting to these remote locations and experiencing the camp life itself. You're just not seeing all the cool things along the way. But we could definitely use some help in that area. So just check out the website and join us if you get a chance.
Good. I'm glad I asked that question, because as I asked that question, I realized I'm like, damn, I don't know if Rich already has a bench of people that he wants to pull from, or if he actually needs some some folks to step in and help when they can. Because I think sometimes people, Trail Hero is a huge thing for a lot of people, and I think people think Trail Hero Expeditions is a huge thing, and it really wasn't. It was a small group, like it was a large group when you zoom out a little bit, but it was still a small group comparatively to an event like you do.
And it was very intimate. And I think that the cool part about it for me was, like, I've hosted all these events and done all these things, and it was the most fun that I've had at my own event or my own thing. And so I still look back and I think about all the stories and the experiences that I had. And, it was so rad. So if I could share that with anybody, I'd be happy to.
That's awesome. All right. Well, I think that's a great place to leave it off at, man. Again, I want to thank you for inviting the show to the event. I think, I went in with a certain plan of how we were going to kind of cover this and do this event. And I think it changed a little bit, and I love how it changed, and I'm very excited about coming back next year and doing this again. I think we're going to be a little bit leaner and meaner. And I think we're going to get some different kinds of interviews and stuff with folks that, again, my goal is to kind of get that back behind the scenes stuff that doesn't get a chance to make the air, because it is a show. It's still a reality show, right? But sometimes you want to know more about X, Y, or Z, and this is the place to come and do it. And so what I will tell you, Rich, is as that stuff hits the cutting room floor, and I will tell the rest of the production crew this as well, like if you guys got clips that you really want to get out there and share, I'm more than willing to make a clip show for you guys to release on the show here. So just to, like there was just so much good stuff. I know I can, like, again, I'm just going to name drop Brian and Jeff because I know them. They're from Chicago. What am I going to do? I just know there's a ton of gold that came from their internal cameras because those two guys are just hams.
They are great.
So it like that kind of stuff will be really amazing to see. And it'll be amazing to see as the year goes on and as we get closer to the actual show. So I'm excited, man. It's really cool. Congratulations on getting it done, getting through it.
Thank you.
You're still married. That's also a plus.
Yep. Still good.
Brandy still likes you. So she took how many pictures? She take like 3,000 pictures, 4,000.
I think she took 3,000 pictures a day. And
a day.
She had, and then she narrowed it down to the ones that you've seen. And I mean, it's just, she's an amazing photographer. And an amazing support to all things that we're doing. So huge deal.
I'll give her a shout out too. I think she took a picture of me at that Overlook, and she had my cell phone camera. It turned out amazing. I was like, all right, this is fantastic. Well, thank you very much. I will see you next in person, I'm guessing, at Trail Hero. And then, but I'm sure we will talk between now and then. And then, as always, man, if you need anything for, Trail Hero Expeditions or Trail Hero, or if you want to just come on the show to BS with us, man, you're always welcome to do so. I'll bring Brandy with you if you want to.
Yeah. Well, that would be great. We actually play off each other really well, and it gets pretty entertaining for people. So I think it'd be cool to do something for Trail Hero with the two of us. And we'll catch up and see how that looks. But thanks for the support, man. You guys, you're amazing, and we support you, and we love what you're doing, and keep it going.
I love having you on the show, man. You're fantastic. So thank you so much. All right. Well, if you guys want to learn more, it is still Trail Hero, thetrailhero.com for the main website. And then it is trailherox.com for the Trail Hero Expedition piece. And you can already apply for season 2.
Yes, you can actually apply for season 2 right now.
Okay. So what I would recommend, Rich talked about this being a casting thing to a certain degree, but make sure that when you're putting your application in, you're treating it like a casting call, because it is. And just as much as it is about skill.
Just be yourself, and we'll discover you. That's all that matters, and the more you can tell us, the better.
It's never mind. I think I had a thought that I wanted to give there, but I don't want to give it out because it's too much. I don't want to give away too much. It's every time I go to it, I'm like, we went through this whole episode without talking about anything we're not supposed to talk about, which means I can just cut it as is. And I don't want to screw that up at the very end of the episode. So Rich, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. And for those of you listening, thanks so much for riding along with us on this episode and letting us be a part of your off-road adventures. Safe travels on and off-road. As always, stay the trail, and we'll see you next time at the trailhead. Bye, everybody.
This is where trails start, and our stories unfold.
You have to narrow it down to 45 minutes. And
that's why I'm here, Rich.
It's to tell all the behind the scenes stuff that may not hit the show. And I think this is a great way to do that.